With the world's economy barreling towards a recession, more and more people are getting interested in alternative ways of holding onto their capital without losing a big amount of its value. Everything is going down majorly, but CSGO items are doing better than ever. The CSGO market has been known to return good profits in relatively short amounts of time, so there are more and more people getting investment money into the game, which is starting to affect everyone. In this video, I will not only talk about why the market will be irreversibly changed by this movement, but also if this will ruin the investing potential of CSGO items long term in general. Okay, so CSGO has been growing a lot in player count and in the market lately, which is great for all of us. When we look at the daily player count for CSGO, we see that it has been growing a lot lately. And when you think about it, this is actually very good for investors like us. More people interested in the game means more people want skins, stickers, cases, etc. The things we invest in are more demanded, which means the price goes up since the supply for most items is not going up at all, but is only going down over time. So you would think that a big influx of investors is good for the market, but it actually is not. Investors don't usually care that much about their items, they care more about the ROI or return on investment of their items, which means prices fluctuate more, and in this case that means down. But why is the CSGO market doing well at all right now? Isn't the entire world breaking down? Well yeah, even though the world is in shambles, the CSGO market is doing great. And at a first glance this might seem contradictory to what you would expect in a recession, but let's look into it. The world is going downhill fast, and as it looks right now, we are headed for another recession. This means people want to spend less money on luxury items and people need to spend less money in general, since there is less money being made overall. That would sound like it means that the CS market would die because of this, or at least go very low, since CSGO skins are the absolute top of useless expenses. But it doesn't mean that at all. This is because the CSGO market, unlike most other markets like the crypto stocks or for example the NFTs, is not mainly used by investors, but rather by actual users who want items in game. That means the majority of people buying items don't care about the fact that something will go down a bit in price, they just want the item to have in the game. That therefore means the price goes down less, since less people will sell, which means a way less intensive dip, or not even a dip at all. That is generally good for the people who are investing, since it means that even if something is a bad investment, people still want it for other reasons, and you wouldn't see that in the crypto market, for example. And also, since we are expecting some significant growth in the CSGO market this winter, that will also cover any effect the world economy does have, and everything will probably still go up. But recently we have been seeing some changes in the market due to the amount of new investors in the market. A good example of this is the Antwerp Major, since it was invested into by loads of people and the actual demand for the items is a lot lower than the supply generated by investors. This was first seen with RMR, since before that the small amount of people buying CSGO items for profit was so small that the supply they created was almost always outweighed by the relatively big amount of players using the items up. That caused the capsules in the past to always be quite a good investment, but at last everything came to a bitter end with RMR. That is fine though, since it means the CSGO market is finally stable enough for people to trust it, at least in some regards. It does however start to show some signs of the market filling up more with investors, since that high supply in Antwerp capsules did not come from casual players, but rather investors buying the items at mass. So is it actually bad to get more investors in the game? Well, for the near future, no. Most people who are interested in CSGO items are just casual players, and even investors like some of us are still mostly interested in the game, even though we call ourselves investors. There are some people who will buy and sell items purely for investing or monetary purposes, but those are still a tiny minority. Even if that tiny majority grows a fair bit, it still isn't that big, especially compared to most other markets, since those are almost 100% investors compared to the fairly low percentages that we have in the CSGO market. More people in the market isn't bad for the market at all, even if those people are just out for profit. It does mean a more investing-minded market, but that is just something to keep in mind for us. If we want the CSGO market to grow further in the next little while, apart from just growing in people playing the game, game, it might be nice to grow a bit more towards a real market used by people outside of the CSGO ecosystem. That means it has to be accessible for everyone easily, and Steam is already working on a new better version of the app to help with that, for example. And plus, if there's new people in the market, they're going to have to get their items somewhere, and they could buy them from you, which means your items go up in price. Of course, the CSGO market is still young compared to the stock market, and if it will stay around is a question no one can answer for sure right now, but those questions plague any market. The time the CSGO market has been up for now makes it very unique, since it is the oldest and only really successful one in-game market with actual monetary value that achieved such a good long-term reliability. There are of course alternatives, but nothing with so much company support and so much money flowing through. If this market does stay around for the next 10, 20 or 30 years, imagine what that does for any item in your inventory right now. And it isn't as far-fetched as you might think either, since people just accept these things. If we go back to the beginning of the stock market or the crypto market, we see the same doubt as we see here. But the stock market is most likely not leaving until all humans leave, and the crypto market is too old to just disappear one day either. Of course, there will be future changes or alterations that might change the way everything works, but the core idea will stay intact. That is what I think, and I think it also applies to the CSGO market. In fact, in the coming times there will only be more of these virtual markets popping up. And unlike some markets, CSGO items are actually useful for something, and they can be used inside a game that people actually want to play. Even if someone creates a game with a market like this in the future, the CSGO market has its history and its amount of loyal players who care about the game, so even if a new market that is better or has in-game cash outs or whatever comes around, the CSGO market will still be favored by a lot of people because it's so old, because it's so reliable, and because it has a lot of history. Okay, the CSGO market is changing, and it's changing fast, but that is good for all of us. It is changing for the better. We as investors just have to change and adapt to it. The market is not dying, it isn't going anywhere, but with the market changing, what will be the next big item in CSGO? Well, cases do really well usually, but the discontinued cases are all pretty expensive already, and the newest cases in CSGO are also pretty expensive, so it would be nice to know what case is discontinued next. But how do we find that out? Well, in this video I tell you exactly what case will get discontinued and why. If you want to get your hands on some nice skins or cases, I trade all CSGO items for very low fees. The link is in the description. If you're still watching, you are truly awesome. Thank you. Goodbye.